It's Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to episode 9 of the Wolf of the Grain Exchange. This episode is going to be a little bit different. For one, as I mentioned in the last episode, I'm done flipping the like 1 to 5, maybe even up to like 8 mil items. And I'm going to try really playing with the more expensive things. For instance, Bandos chest plates are a big one. A lot of these items that I'm going to be trying are things that I've already tried. I just haven't done in mass amounts, and I haven't solely focused on them. I'm figuring that the profit's not going to like skyrocket immediately, but sooner or later, I'm going to start making more money per hour this way. This episode's going to be a little different, though. How do I say it? Format-wise, because this is 1 hour of flipping that I did right when I hit 65 mil. I had an hour before, like I had to get up and leave, so I sat down. It was almost exactly an hour of flipping, so we're just rounding it to an hour. And I only managed to go through 3 different items. It's going to be Bandos chest plate, Armadile chain skirt, and the Armadile chest plate. These 3 items are the main ones that I go to when I'm going to start flipping these expensive items, but there's a lot more that I'm going to be trying that I'll be talking about. Those 3 are the ones that you're going to be watching today, though. This is a single hour's worth of flipping, condensed down into about 10 minutes. I really fast-forwarded the waiting parts and fast-forwarded just a little bit on the parts where I'm actually clicking to get it down to a 10-minute interval. So visually, not as exciting today, but I wanted to show you just an hour's worth of flipping to get an idea of money per hour instead of just hearing me say it. I ended the last episode. I don't have a price check right here, but if you remember, it was 65.1 mil, and we'll see how much money we make at the end of this hour. I already know, but it's going to be a surprise for you. For now, though, while we try to make that money, or while we watch me try to make that money, I'll talk about kind of the strategies I was using to get up to the next money milestone that we're going to be ending the episode at. Clearly, like I said, Bandos chest plate, Armadile chain skirt, Armadile chest plate, very, very successful when it comes to flipping them. The 10 to 20 mil items I do really like. There's also the Abyssal Dagger, the Dragonfire Shield. Something like the Draconic Visage is in there, but I haven't really tested it out very much. Those items, those aren't the only items, but those are the main ones that I really focus on for the 10 to 20 mil range. And with a 65 mil cash stack, I also like to play in the 20 to 30 mil range right now because I can afford 2 of them at once. So that would include items like Ranger Boots, what am I thinking, Bandos Tassets, Primordial Boots, what's the Pegasian Boots, a lot of boots. An Armadile crossbow is another thing that I've tried a couple of times, and they all worked out pretty well. It's really the same idea, though. You could get a 50k margin. You could even get like a 15k margin. I've gotten a handful of those on Abyssal Daggers, but at the same time, you could suddenly find a 2 to 300k margin, which I have found on like Pegasian Boots, and even on Abyssal Daggers. Those things seem to range a lot. So it kind of comes to the same concept that I was doing with the cheaper items. I just want to try to test out as many as I can when I sit down and try to flip, and just try to flip as many different items as possible. Some days, Bandos chest plates are going to make me 70k per chest, and some days they're only going to make me 10k. And it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I make 50k from a single flip with them. Not too bad, but if there's 70k a piece, I'm making more like 350 to 400k from one flip. So it's kind of a toss-up with each item, but if you go and test 6 or 7 different items and flip them all from the 10 to like 30 mil range, you generally find 1 or 2 that is up in the 80 to 100k profit margin, and then occasionally the like 150 to 200k profit margin, which the Armadile chest plate has been the one that seems to hit that margin most often for me. Bandos Tassets worked out pretty well too, and the Pegasian Boots, I have not flipped very many of them, but they've been really successful each time. Very risky. One time when I went to check the profit margin, it was like 5 or 600k, and I mean that means I lose 500k right when I go to test it. But I managed to flip a couple of them for about a 300k profit margin, and ended up making 6 or 700k in the process. So not that big of a deal. It's clearly more risky to be doing these expensive items, but it also, for higher risk, we get higher rewards. So I'm very happy about that. I'm okay with losing money occasionally. I'm trying to test out how flipping works and trying to make as much as I can, so losing money is just part of the process. Another big upside of trading these more expensive items, for me at least, is that since we don't have to trade as many of the item to make as much money, it's a lot more AFK. It's mostly waiting time. Flipping has always been mostly waiting time, but now it really is mostly waiting time. I go to put an offer in, and sometimes it could take 10 to 15 minutes to buy a couple of Armor chest plates or Armor crossbows, Ranger boots, whatever it is. And if it takes another 15 minutes to sell, that's 30 minutes to buy and sell one stack of items, so very little effort. And let's say I make 200 or 300k from it, that's 400 to 600k an hour, which is still not like jump for joy type of money, but for how AFK it is, if I'm making 400 to 600k an hour, that's great. I'll take that any day. It's not cannonball AFK because you don't know when the things are going to buy, so you kind of have to have your eye on it over on the side of your screen if you're trying to do something else. But it's a lot more money, and you know, I'll take just the slight AFK. I'm always all right with that. I can usually manage to accomplish a few things at once. One thing you're going to notice in this episode, when I switch over to the chest plates, which is right after I finish these chain skirts, I do have, like, the original margin is kind of low, and one time when I go to sell them, or when I go to sell one of the chest plates, it sells really quickly for overprice. That's a pretty rare occurrence, but sometimes when I'm flipping items, I do notice that it'll sell pretty quickly, and that's when I try to stretch out the profit margin a little bit. I'm sure that's not the only time you could manage to stretch your profit margins, but I have not had a lot of time to test how that works, so that's the times that I've tried at most. So what I mean by that is, like, if I go to sell the chest plate for 18 mil and it sells pretty quickly for 18 mil, or even if it sells for a little bit more, then it's real obvious that I could be selling for more. But you know, if it only takes like 20 seconds to sell when I'm expecting 2 minutes, that's generally the time where I decide that I need to be selling it for more. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it just happens that someone was buying at the maximum price right then and there, and the only way to know that is, like, if I bump it up by 5 or 10k and then 10 minutes later it hasn't sold, it's time to bump it back down 5 or 10k clearly. But give it a little bit of time, and occasionally, like you're going to see with these chest plates, it turns out that I can bump it up 10, 20, 30, even 40k, and it doesn't work out, so I've now sold 5 for 40 extra k and made 200k more than I expected. It usually turns out like I sold one of them for 10 extra k, and then the next one I tried to go 10k more and 10k after that. So sometimes it'll add up to an extra 80 to 100k, which is kind of killer, because if we could imagine this, if we got an extra 80 to 100k on each item, and we did 4 items in an hour, that's 360 to 400k extra in an hour, which right now 400k in an hour, I was just saying how okay I am with that amount of money. So I like the idea of trying to stretch out my profit margins, and I think it's a lot more possible with expensive items, with how rarely they're traded and how big their profit margins are in the first place. But I'm still kind of like just dabbing into that idea, so I don't have a lot of information on it. I do suggest if any of you guys are flipping expensive items and you get a 40k profit margin, that maybe you try to go to 50, 60, 70k from it, but realize if you've been sitting there for 15 minutes and it's not selling, it would have been a lot quicker to sell it for 10k less and only take 5 minutes. So these are concepts that you have to keep in mind. There's never really a right or wrong thing that you could have done. Or at least, like, I guess there is a right or wrong thing, but if you decided to sell it for a little bit less and it takes less time, that has just as much merits as selling it for a little more and taking more time. Then you really just have to crunch some numbers to see how much you made per hour for either method, and they usually end up being the same amount. Like, sometimes it'll be better to sell them for less, sometimes it'll be better to sell them for more. That can be hard to tell. That's something I'm trying to learn, like how to really figure out if that's going to be a thing. But for right now, it's kind of a toss-up for me. And it's been working out clearly since the cash stack has kept going up. That's always a bonus, right? Overall, I am happy that I decided to try to flip some more expensive items. I think it's working out very well so far, and that it's just going to get better. I have tested a few new items. Some of them I listed off to you. Things like Primordial boots and Pegasian boots are big. Ranger boots and Bandos Tacets, you guys have probably seen me flip a couple of times, but those I flipped a little bit more. The Armor crossbow, another big item. These are not all the items that I've tested and not all the items that I'm going to test. You'll see a few more new items in the finale, which is the next episode. That's when I'll start getting to some really expensive stuff and trying to play with that. But for this one, I think it was a big success to flip 10 to 30 mil items, and I'm very excited to continue more of these items in the future. As you can see, I ended up stretching this armored out chest plate to like 60 or 70k margin. I don't remember exactly what it was buying for, and right now I'm just looking at the sell price. But that ended up being the bulk of the hour, so clearly one item helped a lot more than others. But 65.7 mil, and we started at 65.1 mil. So we made about 600k in just 1 hour sitting down and flipping. I'll always take 600k an hour. I'm pretty happy about that. And after I sold these Pegasian boots, that's when I landed at 80 mil. I know there was a lot of mills skipped in between there, but like I said, I just wanted to focus on a single hour of flipping for you guys, so you could see just kind of one sit down and stretch of time where I made some cash, and then I could give you a real solid number on how much I made in that hour, 600k. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This format, you'll not see this again in the next episode. I'll have a lot more items being flipped and a lot less wait time. I wanted you guys to see that specifically. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know that I did, and I'll see you next time. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click on that like button and tell us what you enjoyed about it. If you're looking for some more RuneScape videos like this one, then be sure to join the cul-de-sac by subscribing for more. We will see you next time.